Nurture and support begins in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to Nurture and Support. This is episode 7, and I'm Mel at Karmic9 on Twitter. And as always, here's Kelly.
Hi everybody, Kelly Toole at Kellythul. One of these days I'm going to misspell that and feel goes bad. Not today though. On Twitter. Glad to be back.
Yeah, so we have 4 more recommendations for everyone today. I'm going to have a monster day for my recommendations. So I guess we'll just get right into it. My first recommendation is an app called Zombies Run, and it's available on iPhone and Android. And don't hold it against me, folks, it's a fitness app. In my effort to nurture and support everyone who may have made those New Year's resolutions, we're getting towards the end of January, those resolutions are falling apart, so here I am with zombies to help you get through your resolutions.
I know when I think about health, zombies are the first thing that come to mind.
Well, you know, when you're preparing for the zombie apocalypse, you really have to take in mind that you might need to be in shape to run away. I will fail.
Well, that was what Zodland. One of the key tenets was cardio. So
yes.
There you go.
Yes. So in the event of a zombie apocalypse, I will fail, but I do like this app. It is, as you mentioned in one of our previous recommendations for the Reality is Broken about gamifying things, they've taken a fitness app and they've basically turned it into a game. Essentially, the zombie apocalypse has happened in basically right now. The whole thing is set in the UK, and you play as a character named Runner 5. You never speak. Everybody talks to you, but they're telling a story through this app as you are supposed to be running, or in all honesty, you can be walking. But I really like the story with this app. I thought it was really well done for a zombie story anyway. But a little bit about the app itself. It is available on iPhone and Android. It's one of the more expensive ones at $3.99 right now on both platforms. It's regularly $7.99, but I think maybe the new pricing is going to be $3.99. And what you get with that is, this has been out for over a year now. And what they do is they tell the story in seasons. So with the price of the app, you get all of season 1. And I think that's something like, I think it's at least 30 missions or episodes. I don't remember exactly how many it is. But you get all of season 1, plus you get the beginning of season 2. After that, you buy missions, but you can buy a season pass for like the $7.99 that you would pay for the app. So you get plenty of time with that $3.99 right now to tell whether you're going to like this app or not. It will also track your runs, and you set it all up with what they call a zombie link on their website. So it will keep track of your runs if you're one of those people that is obsessive about your stats and you need to know how long you've been running and how fast you were running and all of that. But one of the great things about this app, which I don't have a lot of experience with because I tend to do most of that sort of stuff on a treadmill inside, but if you run outside, it accesses the GPS function in your phone, and it has zombie chases. So while you're out walking or running, it will instigate randomly a zombie chase, and you'll suddenly hear these zombies coming up behind you, and you have to speed up. And I've done that a couple of times, and it's really fun. Basically, it forces you into doing interval training, because if you don't run away from these zombies and they catch you, you lose points in the game. They're not actually going to kill you. But for the story, like I said, you're Runner 5. You start the game off having been in a helicopter on your way to this little town called Able Township, and your helicopter is shot down. And a radio operator from Able contacts you and basically leads you in around the zombies because they have cameras set up. They can see certain areas, and they help you get around the zombies and make it to the relative safety of Able Township. Now, it is the zombie apocalypse, and everybody at Able has a job, and because you've managed to run to the town, and because it's a running app, they decide that you're going to be a runner, and they've lost a runner recently, runner 5, so they just give you runner 5's slot. Your purpose, every time you turn the app on and you go out, you're going to have a mission. Generally, that mission is to go out and collect supplies, or you're going to go investigate something. And as you're running or walking, you pick up supplies. And this happens automatically. It's not anything that you need to fiddle with your phone for or anything like that. All of that happens automatically. You'll hear a little voice tell you that you picked up ammo, or you picked up a baseball bat, or they're really big on you picking up a lot of sports bras, which Kelly will need.
Can you come again on that last one, Mel?
You will pick up a lot of sports bras. I don't know why.
Okay. All right.
I always end up getting a whole lot of sports bras, but hey, if you're a runner, you need a lot of sports bras if you're a woman, and maybe some other people. I don't know.
Okay.
So, you pick up underwear. I mean, you pick up everything. You pick up bottled water, ammo, everything. And this all happens automatically. So once you set up the run, you never have to mess with your phone again. Just put it in your pocket or put it in one of those holders and you're good to go. Sam is the radio operator and the person that you'll talk to, or not talk to, but who you will hear the most from during the course of the game. There's a couple of other characters in the town that will play a big part in different missions that you do. There is a doctor there named Maxine, and one of the missions you do later in season 1 for her is really good. I mean, I actually got all teary during that one, which isn't usually a good thing when you're trying to exercise, but it was very moving. Janine is another character who basically, Able Township is built on her property. Her original farmhouse is the center of the town, and it's been built up around it. And then you'll come across Eugene and Jack, and they run a little radio station called Radio Able. There isn't really any widespread communications in this world because it is the zombie apocalypse. And they are funny. When you finish a mission, if you're going to run longer than the 30 or 45 minutes that you set it up for, Radio Able will kick in. And it's funny. They're like little DJs who come up with cute little things to say, or they give you little tidbits about the world around them. They even go into something we've talked about off this show, but around the internet a lot, about, what's the best weapon to use in the zombie apocalypse, and they go through grading all the different weapons and things like that. So as you're running through the story, when you set each day up that you're going to run, you can load a particular playlist, and how it works is the story comes on for a minute or two, and then it plays your song. And so it cuts into your music periodically, continuing the story along for however long that you have it set that you're going to go out and you're going to run or you're going to walk. And like I said, you pick up supplies. When your run is over, this is the game aspect of it, when your run is over, you get to take all of those supplies that you gathered, and you get to decide. The app gives you a little picture of Able Township on your phone, and you go through and you parcel out the supplies that you picked up to different buildings in the township, and that's how you upgrade buildings to a different size. Now, why would you want to do this? What does it matter? You do that to unlock missions, because part of the gamification of all of this is that if you haven't done that, you don't get access to further missions. So if you're going to run Mission 5, you have to have a town that is of a certain size, which it's not hard to do. You should pick up plenty of things to do all of this, but you might forget to go in and actually apply them and upgrade your buildings, and you get to decide what buildings get upgraded and what buildings don't get upgraded. So that's pretty much part of just the game aspect of it. It's not anything very complicated. It is at its heart supposed to be something to help you to go out and entertain you while you're running around or walking and things like that. So don't take it that you have to be a runner to enjoy this app, because it's a really good story. I like it. It's made by a company called Six to Start, and they've actually put out a couple of other similar type apps. They just put a new one out called The Walk, which obviously would be more geared towards straight walking, but there's no reason that you can't use this particular app if you're just walking. So
yeah, I was digging around on the Android market as you were describing this, and originally I was all excited that I was going to be able to do my non-judgmental, you can get it free on Android kind of thing, because occasionally that happens. But there is a version called, we got to be careful in the name because it's zombies plural comma run exclamation point.
Yes.
Those crafty people on the Android market, someone has released a zombie run app which is free, which looks a lot more basic than what you described there. But I also saw that same publisher has a 5K.
They do, and I'll say that I do have that one, and I tried it out, and I just didn't find it nearly as entertaining as this one. Like I said, you don't have to run. You can build up yourself. Now, if you want to have like one of those couch to 5K programs, you can use the 5K app. I just didn't think it was really giving you a lot of story to help push you along. With this one, you want to know what happens. So you want to use it the next time. You want to use it every day because you want to know what happens. And I just didn't get that feel from the 5K app. It was entertaining. It has the same characters, but they're telling you other little stories, but it's very self-contained. I didn't feel that there was any kind of push to really make you come back the next day to find out something. So I recommend the zombies, run exclamation point as the primary.
Yeah, which we'll make clear on our blog posting.
Yes. But they did have a previous app. This is actually the second version of this app, and I don't know if maybe the other one you see might be the first version, but definitely go for this one because they redid the whole app, especially if you're on iPhone. The previous app really started to have some problems with all of the new iPhone operating systems they were putting out, and they redid the entire app, and it works a lot better now, and it's very pretty and has tabs, and it's easy to select your missions, and the music works really good. There were problems in the past about it repeating songs too much, and they have all of that fixed. So it works flawlessly now from the few times that I've tried it again lately. So it's the one that I recommend. If there is a previous version, if you find one on the iTunes store or on the Android market, you want the new version because it works much better.
Sounds good. Yeah, I definitely need to. I need some incentive to get that running going on a more regular basis. So that's probably definitely with them dropping it down to $3.99 because I had seen it before. It's like $7.99.
Yeah. Now.
Sure.
I'll say it's worth it at the $7.99, but the reason that they have it priced that way, which they had talked about a little bit when they changed the pricing on it, was this originally started as a Kickstarter program, and they didn't want to put the app up for less than the people that donated to Kickstarter to get the app that they did. So they were trying to be true to their original patrons who gave them money to even build this app to begin with. So that's kind of the issue with some of the pricing on it. But I'll say, for the story of Season 1 alone, $7.99 was not bad. I really liked the story because there's a mystery going on as to who shot your helicopter down. There's of course enemies out there. You've got zombies everywhere, but there's always this prevailing notion of you feel like somebody's out to get you. And of course there's another township not far away who's competing with you for supplies, and you find out you're kind of getting played by everybody, but there is a mystery as to what's going on, and so it pushes you to listen to the next episode so that you find out what happens. And then they've started doing these different race missions and things like that if you are one of those people that goes through them way too fast, and so you've done all of the missions and you still want to use the app but you don't want to go replay missions. They've added all of these little side things that you can do now. So I don't run that much, so I haven't had to resort to those. So, but I definitely recommend you check it out. You don't have to be a runner to enjoy this. You can do this walking, you can do this on a treadmill, though you won't get to do the zombie chases if you're on a treadmill. Those only happen if you're doing GPS locating, so if you're outside. If you're treadmill running or walking, you won't get to do zombie chases. But it's perfectly capable of being used whether you're a runner, a walker, whether you're outside, on a treadmill, and if you use Runkeeper to track your runs, then it will sync to Runkeeper, I'm told. So, all around, good app if you're a runner and you like zombies.
Very cool. Maybe when some of the snow melts away here, I'll take full advantage of it. But
yeah,
it's going to be a little ways for me.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend getting outside where you are right now.
Not so much. So I think it's kind of a monster-themed show one way or another all the way through. So as everybody fully anticipated at some point in time, anyone who kind of knows me, and if I'm making recommendations, one of the recommendations I'm going to come to at some point is going to be on music, and it's going to come to a certain artist named Alice Cooper.
Oh.
So this is my first, as I struggled long and hard to say, how do I recommend the one Alice Cooper album? You just can't. So there's going to be two. You're going to get the first one, but I argue that this is actually from the Alice Cooper group, because what actually happened is Alice Cooper was originally a group up until 1974. Alice was the lead singer named Alice Cooper, but the group kind of like Jethro Tull, those types of things. And Alice Cooper, the lead singer, broke out as a solo act in 1975. So this will be an Alice Cooper group recommendation, and that way I can keep in abeyance the opportunity to offer up a future Alice recommendation. But so from the Alice Cooper group, if you were going to pick one album, if I was going to suggest to folks one album to hear, it's pretty easy to eventually land on the album Billion Dollar Babies. It first it was a number one in both the England and the United States. It was the album that started getting Elvis mad at Alice Cooper, going, why is he getting all the press instead of me? It has a number of songs you've likely heard. Elected, Billion Dollar Babies, No More Mr. Nice Guy, Generation Landslide are all ones that have one way or another done fairly well on the charts.
Okay.
Huge tour, lots of this is really when they're starting to do the theatrics and all those types of things. But Elected holds up even today, and he still does it in concerts, particularly on election years, and brings out the candidates, people wearing masks of whichever two candidates are running, and they end up having a wrestling match in the middle of the stage. And eventually Alice is also typically running for president during these times, and in the concert tends to prevail with the big American flag waving at the end, very patriotic.
There you go.
Unfinished Sweet, spelled S-W-E-E-T, not Unfinished Sweet like Music Suite, is a wonderful story about tooth decay. And it's basically got the great line when he goes to see the dentist. The lyric is, he looks in my mouth and he starts to glow. He says my teeth are okay, but my gums gotta go. and then you hear a dentist drill kind of kick up. And on stage, it's a really great song, but on stage it's even better because Alice does battle with a 6-foot-tall dancing tooth during the show, and he comes out with a large toothbrush and eventually beats the tooth down from there. So
I can't believe the American Dental Association hasn't used that concert as a commercial.
Yeah, it promotes dental health. So
absolutely.
But it's a really good song. No More Mr. Nice Guy, of course, is kind of the typical or very well recognized Alice Cooper song. Towards the end of the album, there's a song called Mary Ann, which was originally titled Vietnam. But the group, when I started to think about kind of their personality and what they do, said we're probably not the group that kind of gets into politics and talks about it. So instead, we'll kind of do our version of Lola, which is kind of, it's a very kind of pretty soft song, but at the end of it, it ends with Marianne, I thought you were my man type of thing. So that's kind of how Alice would talk about something along those lines. And of course, the album finishes off with that toe tapper, I Love the Dead, which in concert is the largest sing-along in an Alice Cooper concert, is everybody singing along that they love the dead, arms waving over their heads. It's a very, very happy little tune.
So how many Alice Cooper concerts are you on now?
I think I just cleared 20 here recently. And in those 20, there's always a healthy representation of Billion Dollar Babies on there because it was such a strong album. Elected always kind of shows up. The original, the first song on it is called Hello Hooray, which is actually an excellent song as well. It's the only one not written by members of the group. It's written by Rolf Kempf. And but it's typically, there's a couple Alice songs he uses to kick off concerts. Hello Hooray is typically one of them. It's pretty enjoyable, but yeah, these all hold up really, really well. Recorded long time ago, but Billion Dollar Babies has got some of the best rock and roll drumming you're ever going to hear. It's great guitar, and it's the Alice Cooper group in full force. So if you were looking to say, I know I need to get into Alice Cooper, where should I start? For the Alice Cooper group, get Billion Dollar Babies. The sad part now that we're in the digital world, and you just pull down the MP3, or maybe you get it in a CD case if you want the media version, is you don't get to enjoy what the Alice Cooper group did with their albums at the time, because they actually used the album packaging to its full extent. Killer opened up to be a kind of a calendar that you could hang on your wall of Alice hanging himself, which was nice, really pleasant to have in the room. School's Out, the album actually folded out to become a school desk, and you could open the lid to pull the album out, and it had all kinds of goodies in there.
Wow.
And Billion Dollar Babies was a large snakeskin wallet, and you had Alice Cooper money, Alice Cooper trading cards, and it was quite the design. So their last album, Muscle of Love, I'm a little unclear on the exact idea. It comes in this kind of very thick cardboard box packaging, and on one side of the inner sleeve, it's Alice and the band all dressed like sailors going to the Institute of Nude Wrestling, and they all look very excited to be going into the Institute of Nude Wrestling. But then you flip it over and see that apparently they're wrestling a large nude female gorilla who's totally beat the crap out of them.
Good for her.
So she took care of business on there. So, so that's the one thing I really do kind of miss is that he used to really leverage as the group, and then he kind of carried it on with his solo career, some kind of cute things and clever things with the album packaging. Mm-hmm. But Alice Cooper recommendation number 1, Alice Cooper group, Billion Dollar Babies.
All right. Yes, I'm one of those people that still needs to learn about the power of Alice Cooper. So I will listen. Hopefully it's available on Spotify.
I'm fairly certain it will be.
Awesome. And 20 Alice Cooper concerts. That's amazing. That's more than I've ever even been to for a single artist. For all of them.
And he's holding up. He's an older guy now, but he's got a young band, and but it's a 90-minute show, like clockwork. Doesn't run any more than that. get a lot of entertainment, a lot of good songs, but it's fun, and you don't kind of look occasionally up there going like, oh, I don't know if he's going to make it through this one. He's holding up pretty well.
Well, that's good. Way to go, Alice. We were worried about him after that Bigfoot movie.
Yeah, he bounced right back. He was fine.
Bounced right back, yeah. All right, so the monster recommendations will continue. My next one is a book series that is going to be turned into a television series on the FX network that will be coming in July. So you've got some time to get the books read before it starts if you are so inclined. But it's called TheStrainTrilogy, and it's by Guillermo del Toro and Chuck Hogan. There are 3 books, obviously, since it's a trilogy. The first one is called The Strain, the second one is called The Fall, and the third one is called The Night Eternal. Essentially, this is about vampires, but it's not really the vampires you may have come to expect from pop culture these days. These are parasitic organisms, basically. The way the vampirism is spread is through a capillary worm in the veins. And so you don't necessarily have to be bit by a vampire to turn. All you have to do is get one of these worms in you.
Sounds like a great band name, by the way. I don't know whether it's just capillary worm or but it's a good band name, just FYI.
Yep. We'll keep that in mind for my next band. So I particularly like this because it kind of throws in incidences of epidemiology with vampirism, and essentially the story starts with I think a Boeing 777 arriving at JFK Airport, and it's black, it's dark, it's not responding to any radio communications. All of the window shades are down. No one is responding. It's just sitting there on the tarmac, and with the incidents of all of the bird flus and all the things that we've had, this is set in today's time. They're afraid to go in, so they call the CDC, and the CDC has a special response team that they send into situations like this, and the head of that team is the Dr. Ephraim Goodweather, and his associate, Dr. Nora Martinez. They're the first 2 that go into this plane, and it looks like everybody's dead. And then they find that a couple of the people aren't dead. Well, this is basically the beginning of the vampire plague, and it turns into a fight between them and this head vampire they call the Master. And they come across an old Jewish man who is basically masquerading as a pawnbroker in Spanish Harlem, and his name is Abraham Satrakian, I believe is how you say it, but if I've screwed that up, the television show, I'm sure, will teach us.
That's probably not how I'd say it, but that's because I'd say it completely wrong.
That's the best I can come up with. That's how I said it in my head, so if that's wrong, I apologize. He is a survivor of a concentration camp from World War II. Basically, he escaped from a concentration camp, and he met the Master way back then, and they had a bit of an interaction, which left him pretty much broken and bent on revenge, and he has spent the rest of his life trying to track the Master down. And in the course of that, he's lost his family. He's basically sacrificed his entire existence in pursuit of the Master. He's been preparing all of these years for this fight. He's one of the only people who understands or knows what the Master is. The Master is in the body of this giant and has this very large cane that would be more of a walking stick for most people as one of his signatures. But he is very, 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 very old. And through the course of the books, you will find the backstory of where the vampires came from, who the Master is. It's this underlying mystery behind all of the fight that all takes place in New York. They will transfer back between some things that happened in the past. You will get to hear Abraham tell his story to Goodweather and Nora, and you find out all about why he's going to after the Master. And through all of that, you find out all the horrible things that the Master has done. But these are vampires that are obviously, they're not going to sparkle, they're not going to high school, they're not masquerading as people in any way, shape, or form. Once they're fully mature vampires, they don't really even look human. As this parasite takes over their body and turns them through stages, much like a parasitic or viral infection would do, they lose their hair, because the virus or the worm doesn't need any sort of reproductive organs. If you become a vampire, your genitalia will atrophy and just fall off because you don't need it anymore, which is fun. You lose your hair.
Well, there's a new vampire.
Yes. So there's no kissy touchy with these vampires. Not gonna happen. These are monsters. Not any of this nice, pretty stuff that we've had in the last few years about vampires. This is going to full blown. When you're a vampire, you're a monster. There's nothing approachable about you anymore. There's no humanity left in you anymore. Though they do retain their memories, and at times will still have attachments, obsessive attachments to perhaps family members that they've left behind. There's an overarching story going through this about Ephraim's son. He's newly divorced, and his wife very quickly ends up being turned into a vampire. And she is obsessed with getting her son back from him. And that's part of one of the things that they're having to guard against, is her trying to get Zach, the little boy, and Zach not understanding that his mother's a monster, and all of these things. But you find through all this, the Master has plans for the little boy, and that's partly why she's after him. And, of course, there is an evil corporation I thought you'd appreciate. There's always some rich old man who is looking for immortality, and so he is essentially who's behind having helped the Master get from Europe to the States, and basically set this apocalypse up to happen. And it gets pretty grim. I'm really interested to see what they do with this series, because this book series gets really, really dark, and it doesn't particularly. I loved the ending, but it's not really a happy ending per se, and it gets really dark. And they get into a lot of the biblical stuff about where vampires came from, which is a little different than any sort of biblical explanation of where vampires have come from.
Yes, I'm not familiar with the vampire books in the Bible.
No, but a lot of them, like you'll see in some of the pop culture, and it may have even been in Dracula 2000, which was on earlier. Was Dracula really Lazarus in that movie?
Oh,
okay. I think he turned out to be Lazarus. They throw that kind of stuff into the pop culture vampires, of where they came from, why a cross would bother them, things like that. They do touch on that, because that does have something to do with where the vampires came from, but it's not going to be the story that you think it is, and I obviously don't want to give it away, because it's a big part of the purpose and what drives the Master to do what he does. Because essentially the Master is he's kind of this conglomeration. When they take over, he moves from body to body. And basically, kind of all of the people that he takes over exist in him still, but his central personality overpowers all of them. it's kind of like he's a hive mind of all these little worms, and they bleed this white, silvery blood that's full of these wiggly worms, and it's really cool. They've also turned it into a graphic novel, which I'm not sure if they have all of the issues out. I don't think that they do, but they're working on it if you prefer to go the graphic novel route, though I don't know that they'll have that finished before the series comes out. But the television series is going to be on FX, and it's supposed to come out in July. And because they already have the story, I think they call it a limited run. I mean, they're already just planning that it's going to take them 3 to 5 seasons to tell the story. So it's not something they're going to try to drag out longer than it needs to be dragged out.
We can just hope that FX has better discipline than CBS, and who, with Under the Dome,
yes,
a book that had a defined beginning and ending, and we were all led to believe we'd have one season to get through that they doubled up on it. So hopefully FX has a little better discipline.
Yeah, I haven't done an unrecommendation yet, have I?
I believe we've got one in the queue.
Yeah, there you go. So that was interesting enough. That's what Guillermo del Toro had originally written the books for, was as a screenplay. He always wanted them to be a TV series, and he shopped them around, and nobody really picked it up. And so he went ahead and got with Chuck Hogan, and they turned them into books, and they released them. And I guess finally, after they had some popularity, FX decided to pick them up. So I'm glad they're turning it into a TV series. I'm really excited to see what they do with it, because these are some pretty dark, grim books. There's not a lot of hope going on. So I'm interested to see what they do with it these days. So I'm excited. July 2014 is when The Strain's going to come to FX, but I think everybody should read the books just because I love the books. The books were good, and then you'll know what's going on, and you won't be shocked. But everybody has their own views on whether they should know what's going to happen in a TV series or not.
Yeah, did you get any kind of sense in when they've talked about the FX series? You know, we've seen, like with Walking Dead, that so there's a body of work out there, and they follow big plot points, but they'll make kind of nuanced changes to it, whereas Game of Thrones tends to run pretty close, pretty much in line. Did you get any kind of sense on what they're going to do here?
As far as I can tell, they haven't been releasing a whole lot. The Strain just got a Twitter account not long ago. They've only been sort of piecemealing some stuff out just over the last month, really. So I'm not sure, but from what little I've read that Guillermo del Toro has said, they're going to stick pretty close to the books. He and Chuck Hogan, I believe, wrote the pilot episode. So hopefully they'll stick to it. It's a good story, but it is dark, especially after it gets started. The first book isn't nearly as dark as the following books because it's getting the story started. The apocalypse hasn't quite gotten started yet through a large part of the first book, but it really gets going in the second and third. So I strongly suggest that people read it, if nothing more for their sort of novel take on vampires. The vampires have this, I don't know what you would call it, a proboscis that a stinger that shoots out from under their tongue and can get you from like 6 feet away.
Wow.
So they're pretty tough. These are not any sparkly vampires that you just got to put a stake in their heart. These are some pretty mean people. They're going to be hard to kill.
All right. So let's just keep the sunshine coming, shall we?
Yes.
Monsters Dark. And for the last recommendation today, it fits in still, I think, pretty well with the general direction we've been going here. So the last one I'm going to provide for this week is a movie recommendation. And the movie that I'm recommending is called The Ruling Class. It stars Peter O'Toole. Peter O'Toole passed away in December of 2013, and so I kind of thought it'd be good to come up with a he's obviously got a very large body of work, and it's like I had to recommend one of his because I've always been a big Peter O'Toole fan. And the ruling class is what I'll go with, and with the all the excitement about Downton Abbey and folks kind of watching that, it kind of fits in there too because it's got a little bit about the lords and English aristocracy, but basically it's the story of Ralph Gurney, who's the 11th Earl of Gurney. You get to see him at the very beginning of the show get dressed up in all of his finery. So it kind of, you're kind of taken down, right? Oh, he's going to go to a big meeting of some sort of these types of things. But after he gets all kind of dressed up, he's in his bedroom getting dressed up. And you see him throw a rope noose over a rafter in the top. And he apparently is into autoerotic asphyxiation and was going to have a little bit of that fun time in full dress regalia. But unfortunately, things go badly, and the 13th Earl of Gurney passes away, hanging himself.
All right.
That brings us to the 14th Earl of Gurney, who is Jack, who's Peter O'Toole's character. And there are a few problems with Jack. He's a paranoid schizophrenic. He thinks he's Jesus Christ. He dresses as Jesus Christ. He likes he has a very large cross that he tends to sleep on, kind of all rest up there, and that's where he kind of hangs out on his cross. Because himself the God of love, but he's a little on the kooky side. So they're like, oh, we've got to kind of take a little of this edge off of him to make him in a position to assume the role of the Earl of Gurney. The other interesting thing is that he breaks into song at various points in time, and there are some kind of toe-tapping song numbers, including "Disconnect Them Bones, Them Dry Bones" a little bit later in the show, which is possibly my favorite part of the whole movie. But I want to kind of paint a picture of some of the things without not giving away all the plot points. But you've got a guy who thinks he's Jesus. They've got to try and he's about being the God of love and positive, and they're saying we need to fix you. And so eventually in the process to fix him, they put him in the same room with another paranoid schizophrenic who also thinks he's Jesus, but he's the electric Messiah. And there's some shock therapy that kind of comes into play during the battle between the Messiah of love and the electric. So it's a pretty cool thing, and that cures him. Or does it? Because Jack, instead of now thinking he's Jesus, thinks he's Jack the Ripper, but he's hiding that from it. So that's it's kind of an interesting art. It's dated. I mean, it's a little dated on some things, but a lot of it really carries through really well. Peter O'Toole's a tremendous actor, and you get kind of this interesting. He's a troubled soul, but in the process of trying to fix him, they don't exactly fix him. He kind of, the idea of becoming normal actually turns him darker and more evil. His performance is fantastic. The song and dance numbers that kind of pop up here and there are great. It's a well produced movie, but I said it's largely in a very kind of Downton Abbey kind of setting, having things happen that are very not like Downton Abbey would be my assumption from there. But it's worth seeing, and just that opening scene, they just kind of catch you off guard. You kind of think, oh, this is I wonder what this is going to be all about, and then this guy starts. I believe, if memory serves, he had kind of the full British dress regalia on the top, but he also wanted to wear a tutu as well before he asphyxiated himself. So it's a strange opening, not quite the Bubba Hotep opening I mentioned a little bit earlier, but it's a bit of a strange opening. But it's Peter O'Toole, and he's fantastic. Significantly different performance than Lawrence of Arabia, I would have to say, at this point in time.
I was going to ask, so that this isn't really supposed to be like a comedy or a spoof or anything. It's a drama.
It's a dark comedy.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, because there's definitely humorous moments, but there's a darkness that runs through the.
I like dark comedy.
But yeah, because it is described by Variety as brilliantly caustic. and so a little bit of mixed reviews in terms of when it came out in the critics, because it is a very kind of out there kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a really enjoyable film. It used to be available on Netflix. I'm not sure with the great unburdening that they did the end of this year if it's still out there, but you can find it in a lot of places. So if you haven't, typically when people who are familiar with Peter O'Toole, this is not one of the movies that they are familiar with. It's kind of tucked in the corner a little bit, and you get to kind of see it. But it's a great performance. I don't think I gave away too much of the plot. You get a couple of the big pieces there. There's some additional twists and turns on there. But if you're looking for kind of a dark comedy with a little bit of musical accompaniment here and there, I'd have to recommend The Ruling Class.
All right. I hadn't even heard of that, and I'm not the biggest Peter O'Toole fan, but I'm going to check that out. I love dark comedies, so
this will
that
fit
sounds
the bill.
Good.
All righty. So as we're starting to wind things down, we come to our Twitter recommendation portion of the show. We're going to try and wrap things up and making sure we offer up some Twitter recommendations. I'll go ahead and start. I'm going to recommend for this week Darth Vader, at Darth Vader on Twitter. I'm fairly certain this is the actual Darth Vader. He has almost 500,000 fans, so I think that's a pretty clear indication.
Probably.
This is the real one. And he followed me back. So gotta give him, since Vader has followed me back, I have to absolutely recommend him. But it's a well-run account. If it's not Darth Vader, who's ever doing the account channels Darth Vader quite well. So
yeah,
I would tack on Darth Vader if you're not already following him.
Well, and he's suitably dark. I mean, my gosh, who doesn't want to follow a Sith Lord? But I guess my recommendation will go light. We've given you enough darkness today. I'm going to give you my Twitter recommendation of the day is at the Daily Corgi, because everybody knows I love corgis, and they give you cute little corgi pictures or videos every day. It's corgi power to the people since 2009. So if you like corgis, go watch the at the Daily Corgi and follow them.
That is a much lighter ending to what has been a very dark show. So it's a nice mix.
I should have found something dark, but after all of that, I needed a smile or a laugh or two, and corgis are good for that. So the internet loves corgis.
There you go. Well, I will as soon as we wrap things up here today, I'll jump onto Twitter, and that'll be an immediate follow. That'll be a unique follow for me.
Yes, I know. I was gonna say. Well, it could have been kittens. I could have made you follow kittens.
Yeah, I'm probably not gonna. Corgis I can do. Kittens.
Okay.
I get enough friends on Twitter sending me kitten photos, so I'm good with that. So excellent.
Okay.
So as we wrap things up, please remember to listen. We're on iTunes, Nurture and Support. Please subscribe to us there. Would love reviews. If you get a chance to add a comment or two, those always help in the visibility of things on iTunes. At NurtandSup on Twitter. Please follow that Twitter account. It's where we always kind of post when the next episode's available, and Mel and I retweet the heck out of it. The website, where the blog is at.
NurtureandSupport.net.
NurtureandSupport.net. Please subscribe to that. Love comments on there. Please be sure to also nertandsup@gmail.com is the email address. You can send us your suggestions if you'd like for us to kind of include one of your recommendations in our show. Would love to hear from you there. So you can hit us on Twitter. You can get us an email, comments on the blog, iTunes, or just all sorts of ways you can give us information. We would absolutely love to hear from you.
Yes, we would. So please contact us.
Otherwise,
Tell us what we like.
You're going to keep getting dark stuff otherwise. You want to lighten it up? Help us out.
Yeah, give us some recommendations. Tell us what you like. If there's something you don't like, just let us know. But remember to be nurturing and supporting about it. Because we're friendly people. We're not dark at all.
Just ignore the first part of the show.
Yeah.
this is good. No, this is a good one. I like a lot of the stuff. I've been toying around with that zombie run thing for a while, saying, "It sounds pretty cool."
It's a good story. It's a good story. I recommend it. Especially right now at $3.99. It's well worth it because you get all of season 1, and season 1's a good story. So I'm not done with season 2, but season 1 is well worth $3.99.
And we're so messed up on price, and this whole when you start 99 cents an app becomes kind of your framework. If you just step back and think about it, $8. Even at the regular price, $8 for kind of something that could be handy and those types of things. That's still an awful good price. So
yeah.
So, but $3.90, $4, even better. So
your health is worth it.
There you go. That's right. Because we care about you. Because we nurture and support.
We do.
All right, folks. I hope you enjoyed the show. This is Nurture and Support. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, everybody.
Nurturing and supporting. Try it.